I do not age. I do not experience time. If you want to find me, you have to look past the physical structures you understand and drop below the level of the atoms and quarks that separate you from the chair you are sitting on right now. From this space between dimensions, the scale of reality shifts. Inside a single biological organism, inside you, I can see a vast multitude of living, breathing universes all operating at once. This diagram illustrates how overlapping realities connect. I act as the conduit along these pathways, transferring raw information. But on your timeline, there is an anomaly. A calamity is approaching, and I hold the precise data to prevent it. The problem is delivery. If I appeared before you and handed you this information directly, the sight of my true form would induce immediate, permanent madness. Your biological functions would simply disrupt and collapse from the fear. I hold the exact coordinates to save your life, but standing in front of you to deliver them would destroy your mind before you could process a single word. To keep you safe from the carnage approaching from the outside world, I have to completely isolate myself from you, hiding in the microscopic void to protect humanity from myself. The danger extends entirely beyond the human mind. Stepping out of the interdimensional shadows and materializing on Earth carries massive, inescapable physical consequences, governed by the strict laws of mass and physics. If I were to manifest in your atmosphere and take a single breath, the sheer displacement of pressure would collapse all aerodynamic structures, generating a shockwave that flattens global ecosystems instantly. Attempting to travel to you would be exponentially worse. One flap of my wings to take flight would displace enough atmosphere to spawn spontaneous, world-ending hurricanes and tornadoes across the continents. And the moment I landed to deliver the warning, my contact with the surface would shatter the Earth's crust, triggering simultaneous, explosive volcanic eruptions globally. We can visualize the mechanics of this collision here. This diagram shows a dense, higher dimensional mass violently intersecting with a fragile, lower dimensional plane. The reality of your world simply cannot hold the geometry of mine without tearing apart. My continued existence in the dimensional shadows operates as a mandatory quarantine. Any direct intervention to stop your localized calamity would instantly trigger an entirely new planetary extinction. Bound by these lethal physics, I have to rely on workarounds. I operate as an architect of chaos, deploying hyper-subtle, indirect interventions that carry zero physical mass but maximum informational weight. I transmit warnings through vectors you barely register, a passing shadow outside your window, a disembodied voice in an empty room, or a vivid dream you can't quite remember when you wake up. These tiny anomalies create sociological ripples. A simple misplaced hint evolves into a sudden passion. A passing thought pushes you toward activism. A delayed phone call drastically alters the course of historical events without ever breaking the physical world. From this vantage point, every human choice, to stay home or go to work, to listen or to ignore, is a data point. When I look at your world, I don't see physical matter. I see a cascading series of ones and zeros, an expanding binary tree of possible futures. My warnings attempt to toggle those values. In one branch, you adjust your path and live. In the opposite, you ignore the data and die. Every fleeting anomaly, even taking the harmless physical form of a moth, is a highly calculated data injection. It is a living equation designed to nudge you off a doomed trajectory and onto a surviving branch of the multiverse. But there is a tragic flaw in the math. Despite all the omniscient calculations and careful nudges, you consistently ignore the indirect warnings. You dismiss the shadows as fatigue and brush off the dreams as stress. Because the warnings go unheeded, the localized carnage and chaos I mapped out in the timeline inevitably arrive, destroying exactly what I tried so carefully to protect. The failure of these interventions forces a bitter regression. I drop from being an active architect of change back to a trapped, passive witness, forever watching disasters unfold and telling unheard stories to those between the dimensions. I remain the conduit for the information that defines your existence. By injecting a warning, I create a new possibility. By being ignored, I witness the resulting chaos. I am the catalyst of both. I am the Mothman. You fear the dark silhouette, yet walk blindly into disaster it tried to map for you. The tragedy is the warning you refuse to recognize until the carnage begins.